always remember when I did not understand how I used to stand under all the fools. Always remember when I did not understand how I used to stand under. Now I learn a little more every day, and I'm waking the sheep. Gonna say it out loud, say it proud, get it out, 'cause I'm burning inside, cannot hide it no more. I'm a raconteur too. Yeah, I'm a raconteur too. Oh, I'm a raconteur too. All the people in the chat room singing. Oh, I'm a raconteur too. One more time, one more time. Oh, I'm a raconteur too. Good evening and welcome to. Oh, it's going through this.
This is Jason Holmes, standing in for Aid Hardy.
I don't even know what's going on here.
This world is for everybody and not.
Do not know what is going on. Hang on, just give me a second.
I've been away.
There we go. It's from another night, I think. Good evening, welcome to Thursday News. A bit of a false start that we've had there, but welcome. Good evening. I hope you're okay. Sorry about last week that there wasn't a second show. I've just, Adi, we're a bit knackered, and I've got a load of pain as well in my foot. It's doing me head in. It's making me really. It's turning me really into a bit of a monster. So. But we're all right tonight. We've got a guest lined up. But evening, Adi, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Just, shall we call that a testicles false start?
Oh God Almighty! What I've done is I've put a show on instead of doing line. Just doing the song. I've put a show on. So
Okay.
it's Raconteurs 2. It's Raconteurs 2 by Eve Campbell. So bit of a shady start that we've had tonight, but we've got a good show lined up. What do you reckon, mate? All right.
Yeah, I reckon you ought to introduce our guest. Just crack on.
Yeah, I think we've got a guest for this evening. I've been looking to get one of these guys on for quite a while, and it's let me tell you, it's quite difficult to get somebody on from this sort of field. So I feel quite fortunate we've got on with us tonight. We've got Dean Rowland, Dean Ratty Rowland. He's from the Facebook group S.T.O.P, or the group S.T.O.P, which targets online predators, secretly targeting online predators. Good evening, Dean. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. I can hear myself coming back from somewhere. I don't know where it's from. I don't know if it's you, Ada.
Don't know, mate. Have you got the my speakers are not turned up very loud at all?
Okay.
Do you want me to plug some cans in just to see?
Yeah, that'd probably be better. Yeah, just to give some sort of.
Let's see if it is.
I'm just hearing back from you. So, good evening, Dean. You're from S.T.O.P, secretly targeting online predators, and I've seen a number of your videos. First of all, why don't you tell us what your background is and how you first got into this?
Well, I started this in January 2018. I started with another group prior to this called POP, Parental Online Protection. Started that with a couple of friends, Gavin Perry and Kat. She ran the group at the time. Stayed there for 6 months. They had a different outlook as to how they wanted to continue to do this kind of work. They wasn't comfortable in live streaming. They felt that they get a better conviction rate if they only release the live footage after conviction. Whereas I wanted to live stream and expose them straight away, just because I thought that the convictions weren't strong enough for this kind of crime. So July last year, I left POP and then decided to create S.T.O.P, which I did again with a co-founder, Gavin. And it's just gone from strength to strength there. It started off quite slow. Was probably getting one every 2 to 3 weeks. But at the turn of this year, it's just gone absolutely crazy. We're looking at 3, 4, sometimes 5 a week. And like I say, we're 4 away from getting 100 arrests this year. So
I did notice earlier on, actually, that there was a sting going off at the moment under the umbrella of S.T.O.P.
Yeah.
It's so. What I want to know, how much of a problem is this online in this country? How many people are up to this sort of stuff? You know, is it common? Is it into many thousands of people? I don't know. Gives your experience. How many people are doing this sort of thing?
It's frightening. It really is an epidemic across all different platforms. It's just, the figures are astounding. I mean, like I say, within just under a year, we've got 100 arrests. You know, there's supposed to be 180 plus teams throughout the community, throughout the UK, and if we're only knocking out 96 inside 11 months, 12 months, then across 180 teams, that must tell you how bad it is. It's an epidemic. It's terrible.
There seems to be a lot about, and it's funny because yesterday, I think it might have been Saturday when you got back in touch with me and said, you know, I'd be willing to come on show. It was because I'd messaged you earlier, earlier on in the week, and then I got a reply on Saturday, and it was a reply that I got just after I'd seen on one of these police shows that they were handing over a paedophile to these coppers. And I'm just wondering, what do you think? What do you think the police think of you as in general?
In general, they're receptive of us, because we do a lot of the work for them. Obviously, we present the evidence, we present the suspect to them, we present all the witness statements. They're already done when we go to the station. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nottinghamshire Police are without doubt one of the best police forces to work with. Seem to thank us every time that we do it. We was in Huddersfield last night. The police came out, and again, they thanked us for what we do. So long as we stay on the right side of the law, I think that it'll continue to be a great relationship in that sense. I don't think you'll ever see us join forces or work, you know, aside by side one another. But yeah.
When you say that, you say, you know, we're working on the right side of the, you know, as long as we stay on the right side of the law. Yeah. The temptation to step over that line and to go onto the wrong side of the law must be incredible, especially, you know, when you've perhaps got somebody there that's got kids and you're confronted with a suspect. And I've seen one or two. I'm not mentioning yours in this, but I have seen two of the stings where things have got quite unnecessarily have got. Not violent, but abusive. I mean, how do you keep that in check? Bearing in mind it's a really emotive subject, and everyone's concerned about it, especially everyone with kids. I'm lucky. I've got, my daughter's 22 years old now, so that doesn't really apply to her anymore. But you know, if you how easy is it to stay on the right side of the law?
I think you have to be very calm. You have to be, even though that the situation that you're presented with can give you emotions that a lot of people can't control. If you see, some teams are walking a very tight line in the sense where, you know, there's public order offences, there's false imprisonment. You know, we've got a set of guidelines within our group, within the community. There's guidelines that everyone works to. They're just out there. But within the group, within S.T.O.P, we've got our own sort of tighter guidelines that mean that we have to remain calm. We have to be careful. Choice of words, that's another thing. We have to be really careful in what we say, because these guys, we only hand them to the police. They're only suspects until they're charged. You know, we can't go around calling them names because they've not been formally charged in that sense.
It can be. I've seen a few that where it does get a little bit difficult, and you get people verbally abusing these people. You know, these. And let's face it, oftentimes the people with mental health issues as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and I do think that when you do a sting, the guys that are in charge of the research for that team, you know, they should be researching all the past on the person that they're about to go and confront. You know, there's always lots of different information that you can find out through people's Facebooks. So, you know, a complete assessment there before you go and sting to try and get a judge of character of the person that you're going to confront.
Yeah, interesting. Have you? How many convictions have you had?
At the moment, we're up to 25. But we've got lots in the system. I've just had an email back from the police a couple of days ago from one back in July last year. It's taken 8 months to actually download the device of the suspect.
Right. Okay.
But in some cases they're going through really, really quick. So you know, I don't know whether it's the complexity of the actual chat of the person. You know, whether there's anything else involved, what they find on the phones, whether that comes into play. But yeah, that we've got lots in the pipeline.
I suppose as well, it also matters whether the person that you've caught, whether they admit to everything. You know, whether they talk, and if they admit to everything, I would imagine it goes pretty fast. But then again, the investigation still needs to go on in case there are real victims out there. It's really interesting. It's a real quandary for me. It's I do enjoy, and no, that's the wrong word. Enjoy. I do watch when the sting pops up on my Facebook, maybe late on at night. Mrs. has gone to bed, and I'll see on Facebook that there's a sting, there's a live stream going on. Do you think that that's wise, the live streaming stuff, and how do people react? Do you often get people coming to the area, recognize things and recognize people and come to the area, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, we get that all the time. We've not had a situation yet where, well, within S.T.O.P anyway, we've not had a situation where it's turned really bad. But we've normally got plenty of guys. Again, it comes under the assessment of the area of the person. We normally take as many guys as needed for the area. And we've got them guys there as security, keeping an eye on us, keeping an eye on the suspect, keeping an eye on the crowd behind. And normally the public are supportive of what we do.
Right. Somebody's in the chat room, Super Leads, I think it is entrapment admissible in a court of law? Now, I wouldn't suggest that this is entrapment because on most occasions, I would imagine that the person's contacted your decoy or yourself first. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They have the choice to walk away. They're told within 2-3 messages of the age, and then it's up to them. It's up to them what they do.
Yeah, and so see, there is that in there. There will be people that will argue. And what about trolling? Because there seems to be a lot of people that will troll groups like yourselves and appear to be on the side of the person that's been arrested. How do you deal with that? Is there much of that, and what do you do with it? Just ignore it, or?
I mean, there's you know, there are people that troll, but there are people that have opinions on, you know, say they might have a valid opinion as to how they feel about it, and that's fine. If people want to have their opinions, you know, I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, the person we're catching is causing a crime, is committing a crime. those that troll the page, they don't just do it on ours; they do it through every team, every hunting team. For whatever issues they have, some people have different issues, as to why they troll, but they're not going to stop us. Control as much as they lie. It's not going to end us.
Yeah, someone else has put as well, enticement. Is that not a thing? I don't think it is it, in law, enticement?
No, there's definitely no enticement there. I'm not going to go in too much depth about the conversations or anything like that, but we have to, we have to walk a very, very tight line into how the person operates the decoy. It has to be, to the guidelines that is within the community. 100% no enticement there. Not at all. I mean, and even if there was, we wouldn't get the convictions we're getting. 11 years, 1 month is the highest that we've got.
Right. And what about we've had somebody's just texted me actually, Heath, who sang the opening song that we play on here. He's just sent me a message and he said, "How many females have you come across?"
None at the minute.
So it's generally a male problem.
Within S.T.O.P, 0. I mean, I tell a lie. There's actually been one, but that's not been live streamed because she suffers really bad learning difficulties. So that has been dealt with the necessary departments.
Right. Okay. So you've been on to like to try and get some help for that individual. Was there a difference between the way that you track that individual to what you would have tracked a male who was in a similar situation, or would it have been the same, or has it been the same or different?
It's genuinely the same. The way that I approach either somebody with severe LDs or somebody that hasn't got any learning difficulties at all, it is the same. The way that they are dealt with after that, that's down to the police, down to the carers, down to the network that supports them. They'll all be involved in that. But the way I speak to them is it's generally the same.
And do you find that there's a lot of I've seen quite often on different pages, but I've seen stay away from the families of these people. I mean, is that a big problem? Are people going round to the family? They might recognise somebody and target the families of that person, because obviously it's not their fault, is it?
Yeah, no, that can happen, and it it's one of the things that is going to threaten the way that we expose the people that we catch. There's been many threats by teams made in the community that they will actually start going into closed groups, which means then we're not going to get the exposure for the people that are targeting our children online.
It's an interesting argument for all surrounding all of this. I mean, it's difficult. I watch these stings. I've watched some American ones, and the American ones, I think they generally don't tend to get the perpetrator arrested. I don't know what the difference is. My dog's shouting over there. Watson, get down! Div. My dog's a great div. It is quite. It's quite difficult to watch, and especially when you've got somebody that's sat there that's you can clearly tell that they're a sixpence short of a quid or whatever, but it is quite difficult to watch. I'm just interested in what differences, what's the criteria, what's the different, do you do anything different with certain people, and have you got things sort of in place, systems in place, so that you go to this guy and this guy's obviously clearly mentally impaired, or he's got some sort of problem, and then you go to a completely different guy who's. How do you differentiate between the people, and how would you do something different? Is there something in place, something that you use, some sort of method that you use to differentiate between people?
A lot of the time, like I said, all the information is on the profiles. You know, that's something hopefully we'll get onto later. But you know, on the Facebook profiles in particular, everybody's life stories are on there, and 90% of the time they're all free to view for everybody else to view, even if you're not the friend. So you can gather a lot of research from the profiles, and particularly the ones that we have done with sort of like severe learning difficulties. That's the way that we have discovered that they have got them difficulties, or if we, you know, find out where they live, if it's in supported living or something like that, we'll know by obviously Google Earth that it is that. So then, you know, if they are in supported living, we'll make arrangements to go to the place and speak to the person that runs it. The same time, the police will still be called. So then it'll be up to them whatever they do with the, you know, particular individual. Other way, if they, you know, if they're not in supported living or they're not in some kind of networked housing, if they're at home, we'll go to the home, we'll approach the mother, the father, whoever it is that's caring for them. And again, we'll still ring the police and speak to them just so they're aware of the situation and everyone's back's covered.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What sort of age group is there? A particular age group of these? Well, let's say the men, aren't they? You know, I don't think I'm being offensive to men when you tell me that they're mostly men. You've only ever encountered one female. So yeah, these men. What sort of age are they? Is there a general age, or are they right across the board?
There really is. There is no sort of set characteristic of a person as to who's doing it. The different ages, the different ethnics, different backgrounds, different sizes, shapes. Some are good looking, some aren't great. You know, it just varies. There is no set stereotype. That's the word I'm looking for. To the people. I mean, we've stung some 18-year-olds. I know within the community they don't normally like to go as close as an 18-year-old, but just coming away from that a little bit, we had a family a few months ago contact the page, and their daughter had gone missing. So they contacted the page, asked us to help them out. We managed to get an address for this person who the girl had gone to. She'd been groomed online. This guy was 19. The next day, she turned up at the police station, but he'd obviously done the worst. And he's 19 years of age. So to me, you know, you're a danger. If you're going to start grooming our kids, if you're going to start sending explicit photos and talking in a sexual nature from the age of 18, 19, 20, you are a danger, and we're going to come in and expose you. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Dean, I've got about 1,000 questions that I've written down.
Go on then. I'll skin up.
Right, Jason. Does that has that got rid of the echo? Because I've put some earbuds in.
That's fine. That's awesome, mate.
I just felt horrible with them big egg cups on my ears. Anyway, right. These are in no particular order. I am, when it comes to apps and technical shit, I'm a knobhead. I don't have a Facebook page. You can email me, or you can ring me up, or you can send me a text. I use WhatsApp and an Asian version of WhatsApp that's called Line. That's it. That's me. I don't have Twitter. I don't have face shit. I don't have any of that crap. Somebody, God, it must be 9 or 10 years ago, tagged me in a photo, and I got an email telling me they'd done it. So I just switched it all off. Just gone. That was it for me. That's what did it for me. Anyway, so when you said contacted the page, do you mean they contacted the Facebook page?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you've got a Facebook page. I'm assuming it's called S.T.O.P.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of things that you chuck out there to get people to log on, tell you about paedophiles, that sort of thing. Listen, I'm not pretending to be this stupid.
The page really is set up for an awareness side. So most of our videos, most of the posters go up on the page. Anything that's related to the subject that we cover goes up on the page.
Right.
There are times when people contact us directly in inbox, and that was that occasion that I've just spoke about.
Right. Okay. What you mentioned about? Well, firstly, how many people are in S.T.O.P? Because right at the beginning you said that you were part of another group. You felt that dealing with things and broadcasting it, I'm assuming on Facebook Live was the way to go. Whereas the group that you split from, they didn't want to do that. They chose to broadcast things afterwards, or I'm assuming that was even after a conviction, was it?
Yeah, they would do that in a conviction. So what they would normally do is when they go to confront the person, they would stream to the feet, so you'd hear the audio, but you wouldn't see the face.
Right, gotcha.
But then obviously somebody else would be recording it, showing the face, and that would be saved to the device. So once the conviction had gone through, then the full version of the face would then be uploaded to that page. And in my eyes, you know, by then it could be 8, 9 months, 10 months. You know, that's been living next door to you for the last 6 months.
So that's the answer to my question, because I was only going to say, why do you think it's important to do it? Like, do you actually show the face then when you do it?
Yes. Yeah.
So you show a face live. People know why you're speaking to this person.
Yeah.
They know they're a suspect of a paedophile.
Yeah.
And they're watching this live. So that must be a pretty difficult line not to cross. I mean, I guess my other question is, my view of the police is they've got no more rights than you and I. Mm-hmm. They just happen to have a bigger army than me or you. And when it comes to death, harm, loss, they don't need your name. They'll just deal with you. So if you kill somebody, hurt somebody, or cause them a loss without putting it right, they'll just deal with you. They don't need your name. Everything else comes under some statutes or whatever. So in many cases, you standing just as a man have actually got more power than a police officer who's got to use statutes and acts. So my question is, and it's not a naive question or a loaded one, is why don't you just leave it to the police?
Because they can't do what we do. They're simple. They have to follow guidelines. They have to follow their own rules. There's things that we can do, like I said, that they can't. And in the last 12 months alone, you know, there's been a huge rise, 5,000 cases of children that's been subject to online abuse that's actually been brought forward to the police. And you know that obviously ties in with all these teams coming forward, and obviously bringing those guys to the police, you know, to justice. So that within itself, and when the police actually thank us for doing it, like I mentioned earlier, you know, all the legwork's done for them. We just prevent them with a suspect.
Because as a suspected, that was a bad pun, wasn't it? As I thought, you're going in there as a man. You're not standing under any statutes and acts or whatever. You're standing completely in common law, and dealing with it from that point of view. Which, for me, as a man who don't believe in government or any crap like that, you're the man. You know, because you're doing exactly. When people say to me, "Oh, you're an anarchist," what happens if? Well, you're the sort of guy of what happens if, because do you know what I mean? That's an answer, because that's exactly what you're doing. My next question is,
and can I just say something there? Anybody, if they see a crime and they have got sufficient evidence there and then, anybody can place any suspect under a citizen's arrest. Ring the police with it being a crime in progress for whatever it is. It doesn't have to be grooming. It doesn't have to be sexual chat. It could be anything, so long as you've got evidence.
Yep. Exactly right. That actually reminds me of, coincidentally, this happened just around the corner, probably about 300 yards from Jason's house. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was at work on my way to a customer's house to see them. And I saw I was actually parked up, just doing a bit of paperwork in the car. And I saw this guy turn up in this car, throw an empty bag over the wall, 6-foot high wall, jump over the wall, and 2 minutes later came out of the house with this bag that was full. So when he got in his car and I ripped his keys from out of his hand and had my foot across his head in the car and said, "Mate, you're going nowhere," and told him what had happened, "You're going to prove to me who you are." And he pulled out his driving license, and he did actually live there. His mum had a key under the plant put around the back for him. So, and this happened just around the corner from Jason. But Dean, you're absolutely right. You know, everybody says, "Oh well, should we call the police?" No, fucking deal with it yourself. Why are you asking that thing behind me? Why are you asking permission? You're not hurting anybody. You're helping somebody. Why do you need somebody else to give you permission? So, you know, we need 10 million Dean Rowlands at the moment. That's what we need. But hang on, I'm just crossing off my list because I've written loads down. When you said the police say thank you, has that been right from the beginning? Because I'm guessing it was some kind of learning curve, a huge one, I would have thought.
I'd say it's becoming more and more common. I'd say in the last 4 to 5 months, maybe 6 months. Just because I think now that there are some really good teams out there, us being one of them, that obviously present all the information, have everything on disc. It's all there. All they've got to do is just interview the guy, sit through it, and just pick him apart with the evidence that we've got. You know, there are some teams that, you know, the information isn't always there, ready to hand to the police. So that, you know, they might have bits and bobs, and then it then takes the police longer to get everything together while they're interviewing them. So they have to bail them, and you know, it's about getting that information there and then to hand. And like I say, most of the time, I mean, last night we did the sting. Policeman says, "I need you to get to the station for a statement." I says, "Right, yeah, fine, fair enough." And I have somebody in the group that actually does my statement live for me. So they're watching the sting. All the questions that I ask, they write them down on the statement, put the answers there, so it's all there ready to go. I've literally just got to sign it. So I went to the station. He got his paper out. I says, "Right, I'll start taking your statement." I said, "Well, just a minute." I says, "I've got a statement already here. I'll ping it over to you." Pinged it over to him. He read it. He says, "Right, don't need to do one. Off you go. See ya." You know,
Wow.
and that's why they're thankful, because we do a lot of the legwork for them.
And you don't cost them time. You actually, you know, you're giving them time back, aren't you?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they haven't even got to interview you as the main witness because you've done it all.
Yeah, and plus, you know, it offers them back on, you know, whatever else it needs doing that night.
But this is a very personal question. Why are you doing this? What set you off?
What's the reason it set me off is because when I started, when I went into pop, it was an old school friend of mine. We'd not spoke for years and years, but we was quite good friends at school. And he was on Facebook, you know, he was saying what it was he was doing. I just, you know, commented on his status one day saying, "I think I've guessed what you do. If you ever need any help, you know, give us a shout." A couple of days later, he inboxed me saying, you know, "Do you fancy giving this a go?" So I gave it a go. A few days later, he told me about his past. You know, I'm not going to go into it, but he's one of the reasons why the community is as strong as it is. You know, he'd suffered abuse when he was younger. So for that, really, for me, it was more of a reconnecting with a friend, hearing his story, seeing that when he was a kid, he was obviously going through that, but never told anybody at school. And he was always a happy chap. But, you know, he always got a smile on his face, always giggling and laughing. And to know what he'd gone through then and picturing how he was all them years ago, it was like, you know, you covered up really, really well. And then obviously it's just gone from there. And then you meet people within the community that have got their own stories. I've got 3 kids myself.
Well, you know what they say, when you've got a little boy, you've got one little boy to worry about. When you've got a little girl, you've got all the little boys to worry about. But nowadays, when you've got either of them, you've got all the fucking pedos to worry about as well.
Yeah. And the frightening thing is, kids on these days on social media, my lad a couple of years ago was on Facebook. He used to have like 2,500 friends. I'm sorry, but you don't know 2,500 people, and they are just random ads. And that's where all this gets dangerous, and it starts, because kids, they want a big friend list. They want to have loads of friends, and they start adding people that may not even live in the town, and it just gets spirals out of control.
I've just written down another question. I'm going to come to that in a minute, though. I mean, when you said, I half expected you to say that you knew a child of today rather than a child of the past. Not that it makes it any easier, but in one sense, I'm very pleased it's not a child of today.
Yeah.
And whilst it's never nice to hear about anybody who knows anybody, and somebody who certainly had to live with that for all of their life, obviously that person's lucky that they've got friends like you and an organisation like it behind them. But it's never easy. I remember when I first joined Jason on Raconteurs, and it had got to the point with child abuse and things like that we completely just kept away from it. Let's stick to chemtrails, let's stick to law, let's stick to police, let's stick to gas and electric, let's stick to, council tax, let's stick to all the other shit that we all have to put up with. Let's not do child sex abuse. And it's abuse, that's what it is. Because it grinds you down. So how do you stop it grinding you down? Because all we did was talk about it for a couple of hours once a week. This must be almost 24/7 for you.
Do you know, I was sitting here listening to you ask me that question. At the start, when you started asking, I'm thinking, I haven't really got an answer here, but something's just popped into my head, and that is the network that, I've got within this team. Obviously, my family, massively supportive of what I do. And the team, all the team members, it's not always serious. There are times when we let loose and we have a bit of a laugh. We posted a video last night, which was, just completely off the cuff that we did. But we've also got a great friendship. And like I say, there's 35 members in our group, and we didn't know each other, apart from a couple of us. We didn't know each other before we started this, but since doing this, it feels like we've known each other for years, and we've all got each other's backs. We cover each other. We've all got our ways of dealing with it. And it's just, it's not just the good that we're doing out there. It's also a good story of friendship as well.
I was just going to say, not for like your friend who first got you involved. It must be a two-edged thing, because he's trying to make sure somebody doesn't go through what he went through. But also because that must be some kind of really good therapy for him. And I know what you mean by you have a laugh, because some of the funniest conversations I've ever had are in a room where the person laid on the bed is dying, and you have a real laugh, or at a bloody funeral, And if you don't deal with it in that way, it would destroy you mentally, and life would grind you down. And I think
it's like you've got that much tension that tension releases.
Yeah.
And you become more relaxed in them kind of situations.
Right, I've got some more questions.
Fire away.
Right, you said that the original group that you belonged to was Pop, and then you split and went to S.T.O.P, or you created S.T.O.P or whatever. How big is pot? And this isn't a competition to see who's biggest, because I know you talk about it as one community all doing the same job, even though you might do it in a slightly different way. How many people are in this community? Let's just talk about, I don't know, mainland England, Scotland, Wales, whatever. You tell me about it.
Thousands. There is a network of people that can do all kinds of different things. Information gets shared, and we all, most of the time, try and work together on one aim, and that is, for the children of our future.
Yeah.
We're all different people at the end of the day. Not everybody gets on, just like in every walk of life, but it's huge, it's massive, and it's there to stay. It's definitely there to stay. While this problem is around, we are here to stay.
I think this problem's always going to be there because
it's been promoted, isn't it? It's been promoted.
Yeah. I'm just going to say something similar, but yeah, you're right, Jason. Go on.
Well, it is. It's been promoted. It's been normalised. You see every day. I mean, this trans thing, and then you've got trans kids, and they're dressing up as drag queens when they're 11, and it's a boy, but he's convinced he's a girl. Someone's convinced him he's a girl, and that's my belief on it. But yeah, it is. It's something that's always going to go on, and it's something that's trying to be normalised. I think, anyway.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the more that we can reach out and get this into the mainstream, and get this problem recognised, then I think that's the only way that something can be done about it.
Well, I'm sure that there are each group, and you said there's 180 teams. I'm sure each group has got a spokesperson or somebody who liaises with somebody within the police. I remember, it's a long time ago, but when I was at school, we used to get, once a year they used to bring all the fire engines to the school. Then a week later they bring all the ambulances to the school. Then they'd bring a copper, and everybody used to spit out at our school. But just to try and create some kind of bond between the school and the emergency services. Funnily enough, because I lived in Scunthorpe, we never got a lifeboat. But anyway, I'm assuming that this is a big issue. Do the police have some kind of? That's another one I can remember, and I think this one was when I was at college. They came round and said, we've got the police coming in to talk to you about drink driving. And they come with a load of slides, and the last one, the second to last one's a motorbike accident, and the last one is a funeral procession with coffin at the front, and it's the shock tactic that they do. Do they do anything like that, or is anything funded like that by the police to go into schools to talk about grooming, online grooming, etc.? Because it's you guys are dealing with the problem, but you're dealing with what's happening now, rather than dealing with the root of the problem, which is things like kids having 2,500 friends on Facebook. My phone, I think you can have about 18 favourites. I've only got 9. You can call me Billy No Mates if you want, but that's, my mum, my sister, my brother, Jason, my son and my daughter, and 2 or 3 others. And that's it. So if I was on face shit, I'd probably have 11 friends. And when you've got these kids that have got 2,500, is there anything being done by the police going into schools to talk about that sort of thing? Because, they teach them that, like Jason says, are you sure you want to be a boy? Or you could be a girl. Nobody ever says to them, this is what a tax return looks like. This is what a bank account does. If you get too many credit cards, you're fucked. And by the way, if we're looking at children on, this is how you're putting yourself in danger. It's astounding that that's not happening.
No, not to my knowledge anyway. I know Pop, the lady that fronts that, I know that she's tirelessly working to try and bring some sort of talk, some sort of education to local schools. I've not spoke to her for a while, so I don't know how that's gone. But I know our local school where my children go to, I know that they do take internet safety quite seriously. There's not many schools that do, but we need to get this in every school. We need to get this from an early age. There's children playing Xboxes. There's young children playing PlayStations. You know, they're not omitted from the list. There's games, there's apps on there which, you know, obviously you can unlock everybody around the world that you can talk to. You know, abuse happens there. Grooming happens on games that young children play. Tablets, again, it's the same. Locking down Facebooks for kids, locking your own Facebook down. You know, it's not just kids I'm talking about here, it's adults as well. Your profile pictures, your information, everything that you do, that you put on Facebook is easy accessible if you've not got your Facebook locked down. And it doesn't, I mean, we've had plenty of cases where there's been catfish accounts stolen from other accounts because they've had them open, they've not had the pictures locked down. So they've then stolen them photos, created a profile and started grooming children from that fake profile. You know, it's not just kids' profiles that we're talking about; it's adults as well. So yeah, it's just something needs to be done.
It's got to be attacked at the root, hasn't it? I mean, if you've got less to deal with, because you're never going to stop it, but if you've got less to deal with, surely, I mean, I've got to be honest, because I am such a technical numpty and I don't do any of this. Whatever you call it, social media. I expected you to come on and go, oh, you know, these guys are on the dark web. Now, again, I don't know what that means. I'm a nump. I've got a laptop and I've got a phone and I've got a tablet and that's about it. You've not said that. You know, the first thing that's gone is, oh, most of it happens on Facebook. And I'm sat here thinking, I want to fucking laugh. Is it as easy as that?
It's not just Facebook. That, you know, that's the platform that I'm saying a lot, because that, you know, there is a lot that goes on there. But there's Instagram, Snapchat. Why on earth children have Snapchat? Because that, for me, that is just the root of all problems. You know, screenshots, not screenshots, but messages can't be saved there. Pictures can't be saved there. You know, as soon as they're sent, they're open, they disappear. So there's no trace.
But apparently one thing I heard is that you can, if somebody sends you a Snapchat that disappears, is it 10 seconds it disappears into something? If the person's a bit canny, they can screenshot it while it's on the screen. And then they've got that picture. But
it'll also tell the other person you've screenshotted it.
Does it really? Right, okay.
The interesting thing is that my phone, I've got a Samsung thing here. Because my missus wanted an iPhone and I had one and she got this, so we swapped it. But it won't let me do screenshots because of safety issues, security issues. That's a really weird thing.
Well, they must really know you then, Jason.
A couple of questions come in. First of all, one I think from Super Leeds says, have you ever got it wrong? Have you ever gone to somewhere and you know, and got it wrong? It's been a genuine case of, because I know we all say, oh, it weren't me. My phone's been, I think the one I was watching last night, he was saying, my phone, someone else has been using my phone and all that sort of stuff. Have you ever got it wrong?
Once, but it was the same name as the person who was after, in the same area and the same age.
Right, that's quite
that's a rarity. Yeah,
and quite a bit of a coincidence, which you'd not really expect.
No, but that's the only time that we've had. Like I said, both the people, the one that obviously we knocked on that wasn't the person who was after, and the person that was after was literally half a mile from each other. Which was very, very strange, and there was no relation whatsoever.
Well, you will go down to people called Dave Smith. Hey, I always remember when I worked for an insurance company, and the first thing that you look at is security, and is anybody fiddling? Is anybody taking money out that they shouldn't be, and things like that? And you just look down a load of customer names, and it can tell you an awful lot. And I'd got one guy, and he'd got James Brown, lived straight across the road from Barry White, and I thought, that's not happening. There's no way that is legit. First day here, and I'm going to have to sack somebody. Are you having a laugh? I went round. Barry White was black, and James Brown was white.
No.
And they lived straight opposite each other in the same street in 2 council houses. I kid you not.
Wow.
So, you know, all the unexpected things are out there to be expected.
Yeah, definitely.
What else have I got here? Right. I think you've sort of covered this, but this is more my naivety than anything. When you said, essentially, and I know you don't want to tell us too much, so I'm only going to repeat what you've already told me and then see what you say after that. And I'm going to try not to assume something. You said that you almost set a trap. So within a couple of messages, you've said how old this girl or boy is, this fake profile that I'm guessing that you've created. And can that be seen as entrapment? How did the police? I mean, I'm sure. Where is the line? Where is the line that you can't cross?
I suppose that the line is if you don't tell them your age straight away. I would imagine that if they start getting sexual and then you drop in that your age, that chain ain't going to be used. It really, I mean, you've said the word using a trap or laying a trap or however it was you said it. It's not that it's probably the wrong word to use, because the profiles out there, they have that choice. They have that choice as soon as they're told the age of the decoy. They have that choice to walk away. And any normal person, especially, you know, if a young person was to add me, the first thing I would do is reject, or if they spoke to me, I'd block. Yeah. Because, you know, I know it's wrong. So,
yeah.
like I say, they have that choice.
It's wrong, isn't it? You know, it just...
They have so many choices throughout that conversation. They are not told to go sexual. They are not told to send the picture. It is on their choice. If they're asked to send, a picture, if you want, you know.
Is it like a script or a general kind of, or do you wait for them to do? How does it? And again, don't give away too much, because
no.
I don't want the result of tonight being that a load of extra pedos go free. That's not what I'm here to do.
It's just, the only word I'd use is it's very rigid. It is as a child would be.
Right. Okay. So it's used in text speak and all that stuff that I just don't understand.
Yeah.
And these emojis that mean things and shit like that, apparently.
You just wouldn't. You wouldn't tell a reel from a decoy. You wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell that I'd be absolutely no fucking use to you whatsoever, can't you? Because you know, when I text, it's almost bloody Queen's English with apostrophes and all sorts. I'm about. I'm nearly at the end of my questions, Jason. Who set these guidelines? Who set them? Was it the police? Was it you between you? Was it?
I think there's been a couple of people, obviously, that started this a few years ago. One of them being Stinson Hunter, and I know he was. It's quite local to where I was. He did sort of like the approaching of the suspects, of the people that he was, you know, calling paedophiles, and where the guidelines come from, I work for too. I just think that they've been perhaps passed down from team to team, and then other people within the team then make their own team and they branch off and they've got them guidelines, and, you know, the same. There are, you know, I'd say that there are probably 5 or 6 really important guidelines within the speak of the decoys that you have to obviously adhere to. Otherwise, it will render the chat useless.
I'm going to say, because it must be the last thing anybody wants who's doing the work that you're doing is for that time to be wasted, and for that suspect person to be given anything that could let him off. that's the last thing that you want. So you know, I kind of get it's almost like you're learning from people that have learned the hard way.
Yeah, and you know, we're still learning all the time. We're still learning with statements. You know, different police forces like to have different things in the statements. The different suspects that we get, you know, their different likes and what they do. You know, every day we're getting shocked. We're learning every day with different things that get thrown at us.
Have you ever had somebody who's like coughed and held their hands up and then gone, actually, I know how this works, so if I grass 3 others up, you might let me off with a bit? Have you ever had anything like that?
No, we've not had. We've been to people, we've confronted people, and I would say 70% of the time, the people do hold their hands up and say, "Yeah,
Really?
you know, yeah."
Wow.
And they admit it live on camera.
Shit.
I wouldn't say that we've ever had anybody say, "Look, you know, I'll give you information of somebody else." That, you know, they do remain tight-lipped like that, because I suppose you just don't know what you're going to start to uncover.
When you film it live, I mean, is it like a lapel camera, or is it a camera so that they know they are being filmed?
It's just a standard phone. It's all live streamed on phones.
Right. So it's not like it's a hidden camera. You're not right.
No, they're told as well when we're filming them. They're told that it's being filmed, being live streamed on Facebook for their protection, for our protection. So obviously, you know, nobody can say that so and so's done this, so and so's done that. Even if there is a time when there is a scuffle and we have to detain them, we will keep the camera on as much as we can. Obviously, depending on how many hands we need on the suspect at the time.
Have you had any situations like that where it's got out of control? You know, where you perhaps had to detain them, or you perhaps had to protect them from people that have recognised what's going on from the live stream and come to try and exert some natural justice, as it were.
We did one in February. I can talk about him because he was convicted this month. Well, he was sentenced this month. He got 5 years. He arranged several meets with a 12-year-old. Obviously, spoke sexual, sent images of himself, and we managed to get a meet on him in Birmingham. I can't remember whereabouts in Birmingham, but I know it was heavily populated with Asians. That, you know, it was huge around there. There was, I think it was a Muslim area. So we're obviously confronting this Muslim guy in a Muslim area. And obviously once we got the guy, we tried to move him away, he wouldn't. Then we got a huge crowd. And we, you know, at that point, I think there was only 6 or 7 of us. We did feel intimidated. But as soon as the public knew what we was doing, wow, they was just like, they were supportive. They didn't give us any trouble. Even some of the locals went back to the shops, come out with bags full of cans of pop for us, and, you know, even offered us food. So that at the time, that was a really intimidating atmosphere, but luckily it turned all right in the end.
Excellent. Well, listen, we've done an hour. I think it's time to have a little bit of a break. We'll have a little bit of a break. We'll have a record, and then we'll be back. It's Raconteurs News, Monday night. It's the 24th of June, 2019, and we've got Dean Rowland. He's from S.T.O.P, the online. Do you know? I don't even. I was thinking about this today, and I thought, because when I wrote down. I think it was yesterday when I wrote the notes for this on YouTube. I put paedophile hunter, but I think paedophile exposer is probably more realistic, because you don't actually go out hunting for people, and you know you don't lay traps for people, do you? What you do is you're there, you've got a profile, a decoy maybe, and they never approach the target, do they? It's always the target that approaches them first.
Independent investigators, that's a word that was given to us by the Met Police.
Independent investigators, and we've got them on here tonight with us on Raconteurs News. All right, guys, we're going to have a record, and we'll be back for the second hour with Dean, and AD is there with his. We had a rate. Don't even talk about his camera work earlier on. It's just a complete and utter nightmare. I'm going to play a record. If you two guys can just mute your microphones, this record will be so long. I think it's about. Well, it's not very long, but it's a single record. All right, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
I see clearly now as the rain falls down from mournful clouds across your black and gray. You're affecting me ecologically as you chase so long the butterflies away. See the people frown as the rain comes down on their cigarettes. The raindrops play their games, but I feel unchanged every time that it rains. I can never be a prisoner to the sky. In the harder it falls, we get trapped in walls. See the memories of our failures, and it's pouring over me. Looking at you, shivering me, standing here rearranging my dreams. I don't know what fate has in mind for me no more. Rain will fall, I go blind, think I'm losing my mind. The rain kicks you and you're down until you drown. The harder it falls, we get trapped in walls. So by memories of our failures, and it's pouring over me. I keep falling over me. I can see there's a rainbow shining, showing me the way. I go blind, time has left me so far behind. Now I wonder if I'll ever see the blue sky shining, my heart's crying. You're butterflies
And welcome back to Raconteurs News. That was Rain, that's by Heath Tweft. A shit song, according to Super Leeds, but then again, he supports Leeds, so he must not understand what shit is until it smacks him in the face. It's Raconteurs News. It's Monday night. It's the 24th of June, 2019. Myself and Aid are here, and we've got also Dean Rowland, paedophile exposer, hunter, whatever you want to call him. I mean,
He's an independent, concerned bloke who does good things for good people because he can.
We'll go with that. We like that, don't we? Whereabouts are you anyway, Dean?
Derbyshire.
Derbyshire. Which part of Derbyshire? I'm not far from Derbyshire. And Adi lives in Derbyshire, I believe.
I do, yeah.
Where's Ilkeston?
Yeah.
No, it's not Ilkeston. It's Ilkeston.
Ilson.
Yeah, it's got a W in it.
Ilkeston.
Yeah.
So there you go. So we've got Dean, who's a paedophile exposer and independent
investigator.
You're an II. Well, first time we've had an II on Raconteurs News. A couple of questions. I know I've got one. Yeah, do the decoys that you use, the decoys that are there, and I suppose that when they get a bite, when they get somebody who's contacted them, do they talk back to the individuals in a sexual nature, or are they just sort of like
no,
not
at all.
We don't.
No, not at all. That's obviously the line that we've been talking about earlier. Obviously, they have to be careful, and that is, there's no enticement whatsoever with anything like that. See, I've got to be careful in what I say. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, because we don't give too much away because we want these people to be caught, obviously. I just wondered, how does it, because it seems to me, I'm sat here, I'm a 49-year-old bloke, right? I don't think that there's anything I would be on that might have 12, 13, 14 odd children on it, apart from Facebook. And obviously I haven't got, there's a couple of, in fact, I don't think I've got any children at all who are Facebook friends. I've had people that were kids of friends who've friended me, but, they're all grown up now and we've got out of that. So we're dealing with a specific sort of person, somebody who, let's face it, if what you're saying is true, nobody ever, they don't get sexual in their conversation with the target. It just seems to me what sort of person would that be that would then, because they must see these things on the internet and think, fucking hell, what if I'm next? I saw what first got me interested in this is when I saw To Catch a Predator, which was an American show. I think it was NBC Nightline, and it was about 2007, 2008. And what they were doing, they were setting up people, having conversations. I think they worked alongside a group, and they were setting up conversations, and people were driving sort of 800 miles. This guy's drove 800 miles to go to this decoy house that they'd set up, where there was an actress or an actor that looked young but was obviously over the legal age, then they'd entice them in, and it'll all be filmed and everything. It just makes me wonder what the desire of these people is, because they must know that there are dangers out there, that any time anybody that they're talking to, and particularly anybody that they're going to meet, is potentially going to be a sting operation like yours. I mean, what sort of mindset do you think that they've got?
We stung somebody, I would say approximately 8 weeks ago now, and that video alone got 500,000 views. Now 2 weeks ago, a relative of the person we stung, cousin, he was also stung.
Oh.
So he would have known, he would have seen the video of his cousin flying about. But then, it just must be that our operation is so good that it's either that, or there is some really manipulative, controlling people out there that target our kids and seem to want to groom them, manipulate them into their way of thinking, and just basically abuse them. You know, a lot of the decoys are really just like sponges. They just take the abuse and take the sexual chat, the vile images that we've been sent. I mean, just thinking of some making me gag reflex, but they just take it in, and you know, as soon as the charges are there, we're normally on them. They're normally already researched, and bang, we've got them.
Dean, do you think is it some kind of, I can't get my head inside how a paedophile thinks, purely because that's not I'm so far away from what my natural wiring is. Nobody's got the right to abuse anybody, regardless of sexuality, colour, race, creed, anything. Nobody's got the right to abuse anybody in any way whatsoever. You know, even to the point of, you know, non-violence. Now, I'm not going to say that if somebody's violent towards me, that I'm not going to be violent back, because I am. If I see somebody being violent towards somebody who can't stick up for themselves, there's a good chance I'm going to be the guy who gets locked up for battering the guy who was, or the girl who was being abusive, because that's just hardwired into me. But do you know what this hardwired, driven, I don't know, what would you call it? Would you call it a lust? Would you call it a desire, some kind of perverse need? What is it that drives these people to do this?
I think there's a couple of things. I think that, you know, I've said this for a long time. I really do think that everyone that we deal with has got a sexual attraction to children. But I think on two different levels. I think there are excuse the wording for this, but I think they're there's your proper hardcore paedophiles that have it ingrained in the brain that you know, to me, they are sick. They prey on children. But then you get the other kind that seem to be, I don't know, low self-esteem, but still seem to know what they're doing, and they target the child in different angles. Some will come straight into the sexual chat. Some will come, they'll take weeks and weeks and weeks to even begin to give us any charges on that sense. So, you know, they're your slow groomers. Do you know what? I just think it boils down to the fact that these people just have a sexual attraction to kids. Plain and simple. I can't. The people that I've stood in front of and spoke to and confronted about what they've done, I can't give any other explanation as to that. I just think they are attracted to kids. Would
you describe it as an addiction, something that you can't get away from? I mean, because it seems to me, just thinking to myself as a 49-year-old blog, if I were attracted to kids, then I understand. I'm 49 years old. I'm reasonably intelligent, and I would think to myself, look, there's no way I'm going to do any of this because the chances of getting caught are, particularly in this day and age, are massive. And so, but they still do it. Like you said, you had somebody whose uncle had been caught not long before, or somebody that they knew had been caught not long before, and they still were compelled to do this. So, is it an addiction?
No, but no, I don't think it is, because I think with an addiction, whether it's, you know, just coming off the subject slightly, whether it's an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction, you know, you can seem to understand with people, well, not understand, but once they're in it, you know, it's difficult to come out of that. But when it comes to children, I just think that it's ingrained in them. I just think that that's what they find attractive from probably their earliest age. It's difficult for you then to explain it, and for AD as well to explain, to get into the mindset of a paedophile or somebody that's attracted to children, because we don't understand it, because, you know, we're certainly not attracted to children, but to me, it's not an addiction. It's something that is lodged in here from an early age. That's my opinion.
Well, the reason I came up with the addiction thing is because we're talking about like anything, like cigarettes or alcohol, like you had talked about before. People know that they're not good. They know that they're not good, and they're not going to do them any good, really. At the end of the life, you know, the more cigarettes and alcohol that you've consumed, it's going to be it's more than likely going to contribute to your demise. But when we're talking about these people, we're talking about these people that, like you said, there was somebody who his uncle or somebody else that he knew had been caught, and yet he was still compelled to go and to try and meet an underage person, even though he knew all the dangers and the pitfalls. And I think that might be how you would describe an addiction, if you were to describe an addiction to somebody who didn't know what addiction was. I would imagine that would be a classic case of addiction.
Mm. And you know, that's why we're here, to debate stuff like that. You know, me personally, I just think that they're ill. I just think they're sick. I just think that they like I've said before, I just think that it's something that they're attracted to. You know, some men like other men, some men like women, women like some women like, and so on and so forth. I think there's a small group of people, you know, in this country that are attracted to kids, and that's what we're out to stop, because it's unacceptable, it's disgusting, it's not right.
But if you're saying that is a deeply ingrained into their psyche, and that's what they are, then how do we stop that? Because you can't. It's like trying to turn a gay person straight. You can't do it. What's your answer to that? Being devil's advocate, believe me, I'm being devil's advocate. But if you've got this predication towards children, and you really that's the addiction. It's like an itch, I suppose. I've been addicted to things. I've been addicted to alcohol. I've been addicted to fags, and so, you know. And even though I know it's bad for me and I shouldn't be doing it, because like I've lost one leg, and you know I might lose another one at some point if I carry on doing it. But it's still something that's there that I have to do. It's an itch that I have to scratch, and so if this is for them the same thing, it's like an itch that they have to scratch. How do we stop that? I mean, what do we do? Do we find ways of making it so that anybody that you know, medicate, put them on, castrate them, or there's somewhere, I think, somewhere in the country that's just put into law that any paedophiles will be castrated. And I mean, would you think that would be suitable punishment?
Yeah, even that, or branding them on the forehead. But you know, I think realistically, I don't see why children under the age of 16 need to have a Facebook account. You know, or any kind of social media account. I think that's a problem with society today, and especially young as when I was a kid. You know, we used to be out playing hide and seek, or knocking over wheelie bins, or
building dens.
Sorry,
building a den. What happened to building a den, man?
Climbing trees, knock-a-door runs, stuff like that. These days, people would rather, walk around with a phone, tapping away on Facebook, updating everything that they do. You wouldn't put your child in the middle of your local town on a busy Saturday afternoon and then just walk away. That in effect is what you're doing on social media. You're leaving your child unattended in a world full of nasty people.
I think the answer to that, Dean, is, when you said why are the kids on Facebook, and that's because those kids are uploading everything they like so they can be sold to. Because all these algorithms all spot that. I mean, how many times have you been on the phone and, the next day or the next time you log on the internet, you were talking to somebody about, I don't know, football boots, and all of a sudden you've got JD Sports advert for football boots on your Google page.
Yeah.
So we know that happens. So the answer to why have they got it is because they are the consumers who get mum and dad to buy things for them, and they are also the consumers that are being brainwashed of the future. That's why they're there. That's why Facebook is there. However, you are absolutely right. It does get used for all this other shit as well. But I mean, for me, these things are the scourge of the earth. Sadly, because of the job that I do have to have one. But if I could get away with an old Nokia phone, I'd have one tomorrow. I would absolutely have one tomorrow. I'm going to be dead devil's advocate here. For me...
Hey, can I just ask you something? What have you done to your microphone? Because it sounds like you're talking to us on phone in the 90s.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Let me just change this over. 2 seconds.
Yeah, change it.
I was hoping to get away with that. Hang on.
No, you're not going to get away with it.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. 2 seconds.
Honestly, you sound... You know when you were in 70s and 80s and you were watching a football match on telly, like European Cup final when Forest won, the commentator would always sound like you were on phone.
You do realise that you've just asked me something about football.
There you go. Yeah, but I'm sure Dean understands what I'm talking about. But yeah, in 79 and 80 when Forest won European Cup, the commentator sounded like phone, and that's what you sounded like. So now we've got you back. It does sound okay now. You continue.
Right. You see, for me, when you've got, I don't care whether anybody's lesbian, gay, bent, straight. One thing that pisses me off no end is LGBT, any other bloody alphabet. Nobody should have special rights. We should all just be equal. I don't give a toss what colour you are, what religion you are, what race you are. It's irrelevant to me. What is relevant to me is that the choices that are made are your choices as an adult. And that's what makes paedophilia different. Because if you've got, I mean, what is it? I've heard him say on these things that Jason, but I've caught the odd thing on video. Oh, what do you mean? She consented? She was fucking 6. She's 6 years of age. And the guy stood there saying, well, she said it was all right. That's why there has to be this, legal age. And there's always this thing with, I can't remember the numbers, but living in the Vatican City, the choir boys and the clergy, that's who lives there. And at one point, they wanted to lower the age of consent from something like 14 to 12 or 13 to 11 or whatever. And you just think, hang on a minute, have the Catholic Church not had enough shit to deal with? What the fuck? And when you've got that sort of thing happening and people going, yeah, but not putting two together and thinking, well, hang on a minute, who lives in the Vatican City? Male clergy and boys. And nobody thought that was weird, And that's the difference, because it's about an adult has a choice. If they don't have a choice and it's trafficking, that's just a different matter. But I'm now going to be mega devil's advocate. Okay. And I really am, because there's nobody agrees, having spoken to you for the last hour and a half, with what you do more than I do. So you've had 100 arrests in the last year, and you said there's about 180 teams. What would you say to somebody who just says, well, you're just a bunch of vigilantes?
Call us what you like. You know, we, in my opinion, vigilantes go around, you know, taking the law into their own hands in a violent way. Very much at S.T.O.P, we are confrontational, but we come across as respectful to the person that we are confronting. Like I said to you before, we have all the information there. But, you know, while this is happening and while we see some of the stuff that we see, and I can't begin to tell you how bad it is. It's vile. While we see that, call us what you like. We ain't going nowhere at all. While there's children that need protecting from child abuse cases, we'll be there. Because, you know, it's all right saying that, how did I come into this? What was my motive? I was just sick of sitting on my fat arse and watching things like this happen without having any avenue to help, you know, to protect my two children upstairs. And if I can bring them the education that they need about the big bad world outside, then, you know, for me, parenting is a success in social media for them.
It's just being the change that you want to see, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, I could sit here, everybody could sit here and say, you know, yeah, but what about this? But what about that? Let's do something. You know, let's do something proactive. Let's get out there and like you say, let's make the change. Because you know, the government, the police forces, there's very little that's going into child abuse cases. And we are the voice for the kids. We are the voice for our kids, for our future. And we are making a stand.
You know, you hear so much people saying, oh, well, what are they going to do about it? What do you mean they? Why do you want somebody else to do something about it? Oh, well, you know, politicians or police or... And I always think, get off your own fat ass and do something about it.
Let's do something about it.
Yeah, why do you need somebody else to lead you? Yeah. If you feel strongly about something, go and do it. Which brings me to my next bit. What I want you to do, at least in the next half an hour, at least 4 or 5 times, is tell people the Facebook page, tell people the website, give people the phone number, give people the Snapchat, give whatever it is, how they can get hold of you or somebody in their community, even if it's, we get people listening from all over the world. So if you've got any links or anything that you can give us and tell us about right now, then I want you to do that, because what we need is people being able to contact you, but also you being able to get out there to people as well, and people like you who do know what they're doing. So where can people get hold of you?
Well, we've got a Facebook page, which if you type S.T.O.P in or secretly tackling online predators into the search bar on Facebook, you'll see our page come up. Then we've got our own website with our own domain name. So that's www.stopteam, all lowercase, one word, .co.uk. And especially through Facebook as well, you know, people can reach out to us by sending us an inbox. You know, we do have people that will give up their time within the team and speak to anybody that just wants some advice or wants to open up about, you know, their stories in the past. We've always got people there that, you know, that will speak to them. And again, it's not just for adults. You know, if there are any young adults that feel as though they want to talk to somebody, there's always somebody manning the inboxes at S.T.O.P. Like I say, we've got a fantastic team. I'm really lucky with the people that I've got. So yeah, there's always somebody on hand. We've also got an Instagram page as well. Again, if you type in S.T.O.P, that should come up with the same badge as Facebook and the website. So yeah, they're the ways that you can contact us.
Brilliant stuff. So secretly tackling online predators.
Yeah.
Have you ever confronted anybody and for them it's almost been a relief that finally somebody's stopped them doing what they know is wrong to do, but they've always felt compelled to do?
Yeah.
Good
Again,
question, by the way.
You what? Sorry.
Good question, mate.
Cheers.
we had
I do my best.
again, we had a real child case. The mother contacted the page, and she had her son go to her, show her these messages, and it had happened that day. Basically, there was a guy that on Facebook that had messaged this real child. Luckily, he gave his age straight away, and he just bombarded the child with pictures, and this child is even suffering from it now. I'm still in contact with the family. They gave me permission to take over that account, which I did.
Wow.
Carried on the conversation to obviously get what I needed to make sure that it was secure. We went and visited him the day after. So it was a very, very short chat, but the content there was horrendous.
I was just going to say, what's the quickest one you've had? But that's got to be the quickest. The next day.
The reason we went so quick is because there was real children on the suspect's profile posting like messages on his profile saying, "Stop contacting me, you're a nonce. This guy keeps messaging me sick pictures." And so we knew that he'd been contacting other real children, and for us that was a risk. Huge safeguarding went on there, obviously, trying to contact the other parents of the children that was on his profile, because that's obviously something that we do sometimes. And we went to go and confront him. And it turned out that he'd already served 2 years for the same thing.
Fucking hell.
He was out on license for a year. His license literally was up a week, and then he started noncing kids again. He didn't turn up for his bail, so they rearrested him and chucked him straight inside. So he's awaiting sentencing at the minute. And when we confronted him, you could tell that he has got a serious problem with attraction to children. And he said that he needed help. I mean, horrible bloke. But you could see in his eyes that, I wouldn't say that he was relieved to be caught, but I think he expected that day to come because he knows he's got a problem. He knows he's got an issue with his attraction to children. And there are some difficult things as well. There's times when you're actually speaking to the person that has been talking sexually to the children, and you can't help but feel not sorry for them, but you just look at them and think, you've got everything. You've got a wife, you've got children, you've got a great car that you've pulled up in. You're obviously not a bad looking bloke. You're well dressed. You've got a job. Why throw it all away? And it's the ripple effect that they cause, that the whole family, it's just shameful.
I think the traditional sort of stereotypical image that people have got of a pedo is the guy who wears a cardigan, who lives on his own, who might volunteer at the youth club, or the guy who's a football coach, or the guy who's a teacher. Sometimes the guy who's got attracted to a 16-year-old, 17-year-old sixth former who has had her own fantasies about Mr. Smith, the art teacher, or whatever.
Well, but actually, I can interject there, because the school I went to, we had a PE teacher called Mr. Lovett,
Seriously.
Seriously, yeah, and he had a bit of a fling with one of the sixth formers at school, so it wasn't illegal and nothing went, badly. It wasn't illegal. She was sixth former. She was old enough. He ended up marrying her, and so it's just like it's a weird sort of area, isn't it? I mean, people will try to say to me that he were a paedophile, whereas obviously everything that he did was legitimate as far as anybody knew. I mean, he's dead now. He died a few years ago, but when he was 50 as well. So he obviously were going at it a lot. But it's a difficult area. What's the cut off? I mean, he sent me a text message earlier on. And saying when he was 13, he had a crush on his history teacher, Miss Pickles. And we all remember Miss Pickles. Anybody who went to Dinnington Comprehensive School between 1980 and 2010 will remember Miss Pickles. But he had a crush on her. So when does that? And I know where this is going. I know what the answer is. But he asked where does the line when is the line crossed? And I suppose it's when the person that's the adult in this situation does something inappropriate with the person who's a child in this situation.
Well, in the eyes of the law, you're obviously still a child until you're 18. I know the age of consent is 16. But it's over that threshold of 18 years of age. And for me, like I said right at the beginning, 18 or 80 years of age, if you've got them intentions, you're a danger. You can normally tell when a conversation's gonna go down the vile route. You can normally tell from a mile off. But we normally act as soon as, there's a lot of things that we have to weigh up before we actually go and sting somebody. Like I said earlier, there's research. We have to research the person, obviously the content of the chat, the kind of friends that are on his friends list, and who he's obviously interacting with on his or on their page. I'm generalizing it to a man, but there are women out there as well. So yeah.
Have you ever found? I guess is it the question I'm asking? We've all heard the word paedophile ring, but have you ever come across somebody who's been stung, and on their Facebook it's took you to another one and another one and another one, or are they all pretty much individual cases? They might be in some kind of group, but has that ever helped or hindered you?
It's going to be a very short answer again because I don't want to give much away, but yes, we have.
Right. Okay. That's
very,
fine.
very, very recently. So
yeah, I don't want the result of today to be any. What I want the result of today to be is, one, people realise this isn't something that happens to other people. This is happening on your doorstep, and two, that you don't need to be the police to do anything about it. Instead of saying who's going to do something, ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? That's what I want people who are listening to think.
As long as you've got the evidence to prove that there is a crime that's happening, anybody has got powers of Section 3.1, Criminal Law Act 1967. As long as you've got the evidence there, you can perform a sentence arrest.
And I know you obviously know that off by. I mean, you could recite that in your sleep because you've clearly used it that many times. What I would just want to say to people is, first and foremost, you are a man or a woman. Now, at the moment, they might want to convince you that there's more, but biologically, there are men and women. Now, a man or a woman doesn't need a statute or an act or whatever, because there's something called common law. And common law is dead easy. Death, harm, loss. The only other one is breach of the peace. In other words, shut up after dark so that your neighbours can go to sleep. But if you commit death, speaks for itself, harm, big broad one, or loss, financial, or you knock somebody's fence down and don't do anything about it, right? You don't need a police officer. As a man or a woman, any man or any woman has more power than the police, simply because, and you don't have to remember statutes, acts, or anything.
No.
Because the police have got to use statutes and acts. And because you, Dean, are presenting evidence that the police are going to use, then to a degree you've got to know that. But as anybody else, as a man or a woman, you don't need to know any of that shit. All you need to know is in your heart, if it's wrong, you do something about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that doesn't matter whether it's stopping online predators. It doesn't matter whether it's somebody beating a dog. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, if instead of asking who's going to do something about it, you know, what are you going to do about it? That's the question that people need to ask themselves. You know, be the change you want to see.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I was just about to say. You know, it's all right sitting here and saying, you know, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. You know, get out and do it yourself.
Yeah,
you've got certain powers, like you said, as to which you can do this. You know, anybody with the correct training can get involved in what we do. That, you know, we have extensive training. I have to run this very much like a business, even though it's all voluntary. We fund it ourselves. We go up and down the country, you know, sometimes away from his families. But I have to run S.T.O.P as it would be a business. So I've got different departments doing different things, people working for S.T.O.P, not for me. I don't see it like that. Working for S.T.O.P, working to keep our children safe, and we all pull in the right direction. And I couldn't have a better group of people working alongside me.
Fantastic, Jason.
I wanted to ask, what's the future like? We're here. We've noticed that we're not getting as many views as we normally would do. All the algorithms have gone, and you know it's all against us, and we never pop up on suggested videos anymore. We've noticed that. What do you think the future is for the type of business that you're in, the type of exposure that you're doing? Do you think that the future's bright? Or do you think you're going to get shut down? Because there seems to be there's a big debate on whether or not, and for me, what you're doing is good work. I applaud it, and I encourage you to do it more and more. As long as you're going within the set parameters that you've set yourself. I agree, but what do you think the future is? Do you think the future is that people are gonna try and get you shut down, politicians, and also when is there going to be the time when somebody famous falls for one of these things?
Yeah, it's not going to be long before that happens, I don't think. I can't see what the government can do to change things to stop us from doing what we do. Obviously, you know, we've talked about citizen's arrest. You know, we've got that power. While big social media companies are allowing children on their sites, it's always going to be there. And one thing that I've always said to my team is that we need to evolve with the times. So, you know, there's always going to be different ways that predators or that they're going to find to, you know, probably slip the net. We've got to move with them times. And while we continue to, I mean, I don't know how long this is going to last. You know, we need to get the awareness out there so it becomes more and more difficult for them to, you know, do this kind of vile behavior. You know, it's all right staying within the community and not wanting to speak to the media about it. But, you know, we need to do that. We need to get the awareness out because, you know, this needs to stop, and it's going to stop, or it's going to get more difficult for them. The more people know about it and the more people that are aware about it. The only issue that I have is that if this ever goes underground, you know, and it goes more and more deeper into social media that you know that's probably not readily available on the internet as it is. But we need to evolve with them times. We need to seek them out every time, and we'll continue to do that. We're always looking for new ways.
So I understand that you've got procedures in place, right? And from what I can understand, because you've not been completely shut down and it's not been made a criminal offence to do this sort of thing, that then you know you're working within those parameters. Do you feel as though those parameters you're going to be able to because you've set the parameters so well, so that you have to have the evidence. You're not going to just knock on somebody's door and say, "Oh, by the way, you're a pedo," or this. You're going to have all the evidence. It's all going to be within parameters. So you're making it pretty difficult for legislation to be able to stop you from doing that, isn't it? Or you or any other groups.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like I said earlier, you know, so long as we keep it within the right side of the law, and we're receptive to the police, you know, we respect them and what they want us to do at the time, instead of, you know, creating any drama or anything like that. Then, you know, and we're finding it now very quickly in some police forces that we are visiting quite a lot. They are starting to recognise the name S.T.O.P. You know, I've dealt with a sergeant a few times in Birmingham, and he's always friendly. He's always praising what we do. So yeah, we've just got to make sure that we're careful with false imprisonment. We're careful with branding people before they've actually been charged, or, you know, stuff like that. So.
Mm.
What about groups? There's a lot of different people, different groups doing this. Do you share information? Do you come together? Do you make, you know, do other people give you evidence for your group? What's it like? I know we've been in this game that long, and I know this last few months I've had loads of people just don't even want to talk to me, just simply because of the reasons I've spoken to somebody that they don't agree with, you know. So, but what are the group connections like? Is it a good close knit community?
It's very much like what you've just described. You know, it's the same with anything. When you get, you know, a whole bunch of different people from different backgrounds with different, you know, characters,
agendas.
Yeah, you know, that there are groups that we work with, that we prefer to work with. The one that was being done tonight, before I came on here with you guys, that was actually our sting that we passed over to a team in London. So, you know, we work very closely with that team at the minute. So he carries out, his team carries out most of our London stings. But there's only a handful, obviously, that certain teams will work with, and we're no different.
I know that if I was you, Dean, I'd just want to make myself that good that I'd make myself redundant. Because ultimately, what society needs is for people like you not to be needed.
Yes.
That's what we want. Now, I'm going to try now do something that's going to give you exactly the opposite problem. What should people look out for? I know that your main thing is secretly tracking online predators. Okay, I know that. But this whole predator thing is, and especially when there's children involved, it's almost limitless, whether it's trafficking or whatever. But if we just stick to a paedophile, and is there anything that's common that you could say to people, if you see this, there's a good chance that?
I just think that we should be keeping an eye on the friends. Generally, you know, as a parent, you would know the connections or the network of friends that your child has at school or around the area that you live. You know, you start seeing that your child's got over 1,000 friends, you know, that to start with, for me, would be a concern. Especially when your child, you know, is in the same network as you. So, you know, there should be a pattern there. But looking out for things like, you know, likes or regular comments from the one person on the profile. You know, if the child puts a picture up of themselves, you know, check the likes. If there's anything out of turn there, somebody that you're not aware of, somebody, you know, that looks different as to what you know, then, you know, keep checking the different photos, because the pattern will appear. You know, you will see that one person either comment or continually like or love the photos there, and then obviously then you can make your own investigation from that person. You can go into that person, see what the friends are, what the connections are with your child, so on and so on, and just keep an eye on it that way.
There's so much at the minute. The word algorithm comes up more times than God it ever used to. Where if you say anything on a YouTube or anything, I mean, you've only got to mention one young man's name from Luton, and your whole bloody YouTube channel will get taken down at the moment. Whether you agree or not with what he does, how he does it, etc., is irrelevant. But you mentioned that. So, have you got anybody who's technically minded enough to do the algorithms to spot the sort of things that you've just highlighted, or is it a gut feeling thing? Is it a gut feeling?
I mean, I used to do the hunting side. I used to do the research side until very recently. I've now obviously got a research team who they blow me away. I mean, all my team do. They're fantastic, but the research guys, wow, they're relentless. I mean, the hits, the finds that we are getting on suspects, the turnaround from when it goes to charges collected to me to look at, or to my team leader Donna. Once the chat logs are looked at and we know what charges they've got, they'll then be passed at research, and at the minute they're banging out addresses left, right, and centre. It's amazing. I mean, wow. It's on a level, a frightening level. It's 10, because what they know and what they can do, all within guidelines, all within the law. And that is just by rummaging your profile, seeing what you've told people, what information you've put out there. Likes, or when you go somewhere, say you go to a cafe down the road, you check in there, you can gather the information as to whereabouts they are in that town, and everybody does it. Everybody has got their Facebook just wide open.
Yeah, I've got a question here in chat room. It's Nick from Nick GB, and he's quite having a go at me for not asking questions, but I've only just seen it because I've just clicked on there. But he said, where did the profile pics of the fake children come from?
So they come from followers. They're donated, and we're given full consent. They have to be obviously under the age of 15 at the time of the photo, but they have to be over the age of 18 now.
Right. Okay, so it's like the old. It's like an old picture. It might be a picture of you when you were a child, but now you're an adult and you're a decoy, or it might be a picture of somebody that when they were a child, and that makes sense, really. But people were asking me to ask you that in the chat room.
Again, we have to make sure that we've got written consent for the police to be able to see that. So
yeah. There was something I was going to ask you, and I can't remember it, and I've not written it down in my thing. We're at about 7 minutes to go tonight. What would your lasting message be? And we've got about 7 minutes. What would your last message to people be about what you do? I'm behind what you do. I really am. I sometimes cringe, and sometimes I watch feeds not necessarily your own. And I think to myself, well, that person perhaps shouldn't be exposed to this because they're clearly not. And I don't mean exposed to the interrogation that they get, but exposed to it being broadcast live online. So just the last thing. I mean, it almost seems to me that the default person that would be caught by one of these would be somebody that had some sort of emotional or mental issues. So what would your last message to people before we have to wrap up tonight? We've got about 6 minutes. So what would your message be to people to justify your existence, and don't take from that I don't think that your existence is needed, because I really do, and I really do. I won't say enjoy, but I do watch a lot of.
I think the word you're looking for, Jason, is appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's what I said.
Look, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, I can only speak for our team because obviously, you know, it's facts, but we've not had one NFA. We've not had one where we've not had any further action. So we've got 100% arrest rate.
Wow.
There is a need for teams like us. While there are no restrictions on children being on social media, there is an absolute need for us to be there. And if there was any doubt as to how we conduct our investigations and how we go about things, then there wouldn't be any hunting teams at all. There wouldn't be a need for the awareness to be out there. You know, forget what you read in the media. If it's negative, all I can tell you from where I sit right now is that most police forces, and when I say most, I would perhaps say 95, 96, even 97% of the police forces that we work with are receptive of what we do. They support and appreciate the work that goes into it. And, you know, there's no other proof than that. So while there's this issue about we'll continue to be there, and if, you know, if you're talking to our kids online in a sexual nature, we'll expose you, we'll find you, and we'll expose you, and we'll make sure that you get the conviction that you deserve.
I've just had a thought. I mean, there could well be somebody listening tonight whose idea of listening was to try and get some information that would help them not be exposed. And all I've got to say is, Dean's gonna get you.
Stop's gonna get you. You're gonna get stopped.
Yeah, you are, mate. Because you know, when it comes to kids, it's about choice, and children are not of an age to make the choice. And I think half of it is, you know, they don't want them to have a choice, and I think that mentally that's some kind of it's got to be some kind of that's got to be a turn on for them. That
or
they're
a
managing,
voice, or a voice. You know, there's stars out of children. I mean, what if we wasn't around? All these cases that we have done, what if we wasn't around? They'd be talking to real children instead. You know, there's children out there. There's even adults out there that have suffered long-term mental health problems because of what they've gone through. Some people take the life, and I say this so many times on lives when I'm confronting them. You know, they don't realize the damage that they do, and our children need a voice, and we are that voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I prefer to live in a world where there are groups like yours. I do believe there's some sort of agenda that's trying to normalise paedophilia, and wherever there's groups like yours that are pushing back against that and saying no, it's not right. You can't do this. You can't. You know, it doesn't matter whether you've got some sort of learning difficulty or you've got some sort of illness. I mean, the amount of excuses I've seen people say. And the learning difficulties one seems to me to be something that is what they think they're going to get out of it with. So it's an excuse. It's not a reason. So whenever there's people and groups like yours out there, then I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I think they should. And I know there's a lot of controversy about these groups, and they'll probably some mainstream media might pick out something bad that's happened or somebody that's killed himself. I think Stinson Hunter had somebody who killed himself, didn't he? After he'd been exposed. But you know, I mean, the guy decided to go and to try and meet somebody underage. He got caught, and then he decided to kill himself. And well, I'm all about free choice for everybody. You know, and that's his choice. If he wants to kill himself because of the shame that why would he be getting into that in the first place?
But again, you know, the shame that he brings on his family, but you know, the shame and the child feels that they brought on their family because of what's happened. You know, there's a ripple effect on both sides, and in my opinion, it shouldn't be the children that have that ripple effect. It should be the perpetrator that's doing that crime. You know, touching back on learning difficulties, I've got a son with learning difficulties, so I know that, you know, it is difficult to to communicate sometimes with children that have got severe learning difficulties. And I'm well aware and hoping that, we do enough within our parenting skills to make sure that our son is, given the right tools and understands the right information moving forward.
Have you got on your website anything that would help parents? Like the thing you're on about with Facebook, lock down your Facebook. Is there any information like that up there yet?
The website is literally 10 days old, so
right, okay.
There is still information. There's a lot of information to go on there, but obviously in between stings coordinating and stuff like that, I'm just trying to fit that in the spare time. But there will be, yeah. Is
that the sort of thing that people could get in touch with if they felt they could help with that? Is that something you're open to? Or do you stay as a tight group to know that you're not being infiltrated? What's the sort of situation with that?
To be honest, I normally go on, we do get people from other teams that leave their team. And then if they approach us, I normally just go on judgment. This community isn't, there aren't any sort of like rules or guidelines that this person can do it or that person can't do it because they've got this kind of history. I mean, obviously, if there's anything to do with children, there's CRB checks that you can do. But I base a lot on them checks and obviously judgment. But at the minute, obviously, we've had a lot of people that's come into the group. So I like to steady the ship before. But yeah, we're always open to new people that can come in the group and train up. But at this minute, the door's shut because we've got no vacancies.
I know we're just over time, Jason. I need to ask a question, and I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier.
No, but I'll tell you what, we'll go as long as Dean's happy.
Is that all right with you, Dean?
Yeah.
Right. I'm just aware that you've got kids, and anyway. How can I ask this question? When insurance companies wanted to know how burglars broke into vans, like the old transit vans in the 70s, they asked a car thief. When Kaspersky came up with his online, what do you call it, virus checker, the way he did it, he sat outside these big tech companies and he broke through their firewalls and then went in and said, "Hello, that was me. You need to employ me." Have you, or would you get into the situation where you would have somebody who is a convicted paedophile, who effectively was poacher turned gamekeeper, somebody who was involved in that, who would now taken the choice to, I don't know, try and put his wrongs right, if you like?
Has it get a job?
No. Has it happened? Or more to the point, if you were approached, is it something that you would consider?
No. I just, like I've said before, the judgment of people's characters and stuff, which is what I rely on. We've had there's been far too many reoffenders in the hunting community that's been caught. 1, 2 times, 3 times, 4 time reoffenders. I just don't think nobody's proved to me that if you do it once, you won't do it again. So no, there would be no opportunity whatsoever for that for me, from my team anyway.
Well, Dean, you are one of the few men that I would love to see be made redundant. And more power to your elbow and able to do that. Before we do go, I just want to just explain to people that it is a difficult subject because this is abuse of, say, our children. Children, naive, they're not anymore because of social media and the internet. And the way that the world's changing in order to make them not naive. And that age is getting younger and younger and younger. However, a nonce is a nonce. A child is a child until the age of 18, and the age of consent is 16. I really hope that never changes and never becomes lower. I'll be surprised if at some point in the future it's not proposed. But anyway, we've been talking to Dean Rowland, secretly tackling online predators. what a man, what a team, and mate, from me, I just want to say thanks, really thanks. And the reason I'm saying that is, I think everybody has got, well, there's hardly anybody who's not got a niece, a nephew, a son, a grandson, a great grandson, who could be the next victim. And thanks to people like Dean, who's had 100 arrests in the last 12 months, and not one of them has not moved forward by the police, then let's just imagine each one of those nonces went for one victim more, just one in their life. That's 100 kids who are not going to be affected for the rest of their life. That's how serious it is.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Dean. Thank you.
A nonce is a nonce is a nonce, isn't it? That's simple as that. Yeah, I'd like to say echo Adie's sentiments. I think that what you're doing is awesome. I do believe that anybody, just all these. I know we get trolls and stuff, but really, what are these trolls? What are they? Are they defending nonsense? In which case, they sort of become just as bad. So. And I listen. I'm on board with you. It's a really, really difficult subject. We've had people on this show, and we had Bernie Gadd, who sadly died last year, but he was on this show, and he'd been abused, and he'd been uncovering all sorts of different abuse situations. So hopefully, the stuff that you do is going to prevent another Bernie Gadd. It's going to prevent another. Person being affected, and I've got to say I'm in awe of you. That really I am, and that's not like I'm not blowing smoke up your arse. I really am. I think it's great, and if I were able, I'd love to do it myself. But you know, I don't think there's much call for a one-legged fucking paedophile hunter. You know, somebody'd only have to push me down, and that'd be it. I'd be gone. So. Yeah, big thanks to you. Last word to you before we go. We're about 7 minutes over, so big last word for you, Dean. I'm going to call you Roland Rat then. I'm assuming that's where it comes from.
Well, Ratty, that was my nickname at school. You know, bullied at school by Ratty, but you know, just took that on board and used it to my advantage later on. But no. Just on a personal level, I know most of my team are watching. My family as well are probably watching this. I just want to say thanks for bearing with me and supporting me. The team I've got, you're worth your weight in gold. You know, the work that you do without getting paid for it. You know, this isn't the Dean Rowland show by no means. This is S.T.O.P. This is Team S.T.O.P. So much love to you all. And hopefully we can get this awareness out and let's try and cut this down. Let's try and stop it. Let's be a voice.
Well, as much as I hate social media, people, for God's sake, share this. You know, there's been a lot of good information come out tonight. But it's not on everybody, the tip of everybody's tongue. It is when it happens to them or somebody they love, but it's not on the tip, because we've all got our own map of the world. We've all got our own problems. But you're protecting the next people who are going to run this world and be this world.
We should all be doing that. We should all, every single one of us.
Yeah, absolutely right. And like I said before, you know, instead of saying what somebody else going to do about it, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's nonsense or whatever's happening that you don't like in this world, do something about it.
Definitely. Be the change.
Be the change you want to see.
Certainly. Anyway, listen, thank you very much, Dean. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've got to have you on again. I mean, I always like to get guests like yourself on, people that are actually doing something, that are at the cutting edge, that are at the, you know, where at the stings and doing the stuff and doing the recording and everything. I always like to have people like you on, because and I've struggled to get other people on. People that are in these groups, these hunter groups, I think they're naturally kind of skeptical and think that, you know, perhaps we're going to have a go at them or whatever. But I promise you that's not. But listen, we'll definitely have you on again if that'll be okay with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, gents. It really has.
Listen, if ever there's an update, Dean, on laws, or you want to tell us about a big success story, or you want to tell everybody what they need, or if you want to come up with some kind of, I don't know, half an hour speech about what to do for your kid's Facebook or what. Listen, this is a platform we'd love you to abuse. If you'll apology for the word I just used, but seriously, if ever you want to come on and say and just have an half an hour of, look, this is what you need to look out for. This is what you need to do to your Facebook page. This is the instructions for doing it. This is how you can protect your children.
Yeah.
If ever you want to do anything like that, it doesn't just have to be a conversation. Just let us know and spread the voice, spread it wide, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thanks very much for everybody, to Dean and to Ada, and thanks to everyone for listening. I don't know if there's going to be a show tomorrow night, but there'll definitely be one an After Dark later on next week. I'm probably going to be in hospital tomorrow, so for a couple of days. That's probably not going to be conducive for me to do a show from the hospital. But go on. I
said you slack git.
I've got a toe that's purple, man. I think it needs to come off. So anyway, we'll deal with that anyway. Well, thanks to Dean, thanks to Ada, thanks to you for listening to Raconteurs News, and we love you, and we will see you soon. Check out, hit a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Subscribe and get the notifications bell. Then you'll know when we're going to be on, because most of the time I don't know. We
don't even know. STOPteam.co.uk.
What?
STOPteam.co.uk.
That's it.
STOPteam.co.uk. We love us, kids. We'll see you later. Turn on a bit, everybody.